Years had passed since Joseph was dragged away in chains, and boy, had things changed. Gone was the pampered boy in a colorful robe. Joseph had faced betrayal, slavery, false accusations, and even prison. But through it all, he held on to one thing. God was with him. And in that dark prison cell, Joseph's gift for interpreting dreams hadn't gone unnoticed. Meanwhile, back in Egypt, Pharaoh was having nightmares, 2 of them to be exact. Cows gobbling up cows, grain swallowing grain. No one could figure it out, and Pharaoh wasn't sleeping well. He tried magicians, wise men. Everyone came up blank. That's when a certain cupbearer, who had completely forgotten about Joseph, suddenly snapped his fingers. Oh yeah, there's this Hebrew guy in prison. He interprets dreams. Within minutes, guards were sprinting to the dungeon. Joseph, still dressed in rags, had no idea that his life was about to change forever. Joseph was yanked out of prison so fast he barely had time to shake the dust off. A quick shave, a fresh robe, and boom, he was standing before Pharaoh himself. No pressure, right? Pharaoh wasted no time.
I hear you can interpret dreams,
he said, eyes filled with hope. Joseph? He just shrugged.
Not me, Your Majesty, but God can.
Pharaoh described his bizarre dreams, and Joseph listened intently. Then, with absolute confidence, he explained, 7 years of plenty are coming, but after that, 7 years of famine, a disaster. Unless you prepare now, Egypt is doomed. Silence. The court held its breath, then Pharaoh's eyes lit up.
You're the wisest man I've ever met. Who better to manage this crisis than you?
Just like that, Joseph, once a prisoner, once a slave, became the second most powerful man in Egypt. Joseph wasted no time. He traveled all over Egypt, overseeing the storage of grain during the 7 years of abundance. Every barn, every storehouse overflowed with food. Egypt had never been richer. Then came the famine, and just like Joseph predicted, disaster struck. The rivers dried up, crops withered, and people grew desperate. But while other lands crumbled, Egypt had food. Soon, hungry travelers arrived from far and wide, including a certain group of brothers from Canaan. They bowed before Egypt's mighty governor, completely unaware that he was their own brother. Joseph recognized them immediately, but oh, they had no clue. He watched them, his heart pounding. They sold me like an old sandal, and now they're begging for food. But instead of rage, Joseph felt something unexpected, compassion. Still, he wasn't going to make it too easy. "You're spies," he said, his voice sharp. The brothers gasped.
No, we're just hungry men with families to feed.
Joseph's gaze narrowed.
Prove it. Bring me your youngest brother.
They had no choice. They hurried back home, returning later with Benjamin in tow. And that's when Joseph couldn't hold it in anymore. With tears in his eyes, he ordered the guards away, turned to his brothers, and said the words that stopped their hearts.
I am Joseph.
They froze, jaws dropped, eyes widened. Time stood still. Their brother, the one they betrayed, was now the most powerful man in Egypt. The brothers stood frozen, staring at Joseph like he had just risen from the dead. Guilt, fear, and shock all fought for space on their faces. But Joseph, he smiled.
Don't be afraid. You meant to harm me, but God turned it for good, to save many lives.
And just like that, no revenge, no punishment, just forgiveness. He hugged Benjamin, then embraced each of his brothers. Tears flowed, but this time they weren't the tears of betrayal. They were the tears of a family restored. Joseph sent them home with wagons full of food and a message.
Bring our father. He must see that I am alive.
When Jacob heard the news, he nearly fell off his seat. His son, his Joseph, was alive. He packed up everything, traveled to Egypt, and when he saw Joseph, he wept like a child. A family torn apart was whole again. And as for Joseph, he was no longer just a slave, no longer a prisoner. He was the second most powerful man in Egypt and used that power to save thousands. Because what others meant for evil, God meant for good.
Please like and share this video with your friends. For more amazing animated Bible stories and inspiring fictional stories, Subscribe to the Bethel Bunch now. Click the notification bell to ensure you don't miss any new videos.